All right, we're here today with Dr. Gary Bachman, Extension Research Professor Emeritus of Horticulture,
Hmm.
Mississippi State University. I'm Brian Pearson, and this is the ASHS HortLegend series, where we get to interview some rock stars of horticulturists that we've had in our society and take a few moments to extract some amazing nuggets of experience, information, and perspectives that they have for us. So I want to start off just by first thanking you, Gary, for your service, for you being willing to be interviewed today, and for sitting down and answering some questions for us today.
No, listen, it's my pleasure, Brian. Let's do this.
All right, let's do it. Question
Yeah.
number one. What is your horticultural specialization, and what are the primary positions you have held?
It's a good question because I've always kind of considered myself kind of a jack of all trades within horticulture. I would consider myself, if you want to say like a whole plant physiologist, a whole plant horticulturist, um, with emphasis on, if I was going to say anything, greenhouse nursery production is where I really started. But then towards the end of my career, I spent my time in extension, which was by far the best part of my career. I'm going to be totally honest with you. It was the most fun that I had. Oh my gosh! Let's see, and I retired when I was 67. Yeah, so in my 67 years, that was the best time of my life, seriously, from a career standpoint.
That's fantastic to hear.
Mm.
Um, what has horticulture meant to your life and your career?
Here's where we're gonna kind of veer off a little bit. Um, I didn't grow up in the industry like a lot of our colleagues did. Grew up on nurseries. Their parents were growers, their families were growers, and so they were kind of going down that path. I grew up in Detroit. I worked at golf courses through my teen years, but I went to a boys' college prep school. We had 37 students in my graduating class in 73. And everybody were doctors, lawyers, business people, and the like. There was no agriculture. Those are the people you hire to come in and work in your yard. That's kind of the mindset of that group of people. Um, did wasn't really interested in ag because it wasn't or hort because it wasn't, we weren't exposed to it as a career path. And to tell you the truth, I really don't know, you know, where I was going initially. I went to Lake Superior State and I played hockey there, and I didn't realize, hey, you had to go to class. And and so after several semesters, they said, Gary, maybe your destiny is someplace else. And so I left the university. Kate and I got married in 75, and she went back to school we were in Clemson then, at Clemson to finish her secondary ed degree. And I was seeing where I was working for a privately owned company, middle management. I didn't have a college degree. And I was looking through her catalog, and all of a sudden I looked and I thought, you can get a bachelor's degree in turfgrass management. I went, oh my God, because golf course is what I wanted to do. So I did my bachelor's in turfgrass management. And then I decided I really didn't want to work at a golf course as a superintendent with 400 bosses, the doctors, lawyers, and all those people who knew more about growing grass than I would have done. So I didn't want to do that. So then I went down the slippery slope of grad school. And yeah, like I said, the greenhouse nursery production, master's at Clemson, PhD at the Ohio State University. I really like the email that you sent me about that. Um, but what that did, that opened up a second career for me, and allowed me, I'm just going to say, to have fun. I mean, growing plants, working with the growers, helping growers, and helping, the homeowners in our various states be successful. I really like that. That was really a fun part of the job when I first started. Um, and that just continued until retirement. No matter where I was at, I started at Tennessee Tech University. I was at Illinois State University. Tennessee Tech was a research position, but I was the only researcher in that department. Illinois State, more of a teaching position where we were teaching horticulture as a business, how with not just how to grow the plants, but how to grow and make money, how to do that. And then going to Mississippi State in the extension role is really was where that was the position that I was born to take. Seriously, the and I don't know where are we at now? Because I'm just rambling here now. It's
No, you answered the question really good. It was
I
about
hope you're going
what.
to edit this a little bit, you know.
No, no, no. We're keeping all of that, Gary. It
Okay.
was about what horticulture has meant to your life and your career, and I think
Yeah.
your passion for horticulture and the way that it intersected with your interests in life is awesome and remarkable.
Okay.
I've had the opportunity to work with, meet a few folks that had a very similar answer, that they
Okay.
clearly had a passion for it. And I've often heard amongst my colleagues, said it myself, that horticulture sometimes is a found degree option or a found degree
Yes,
path
it
or
is.
a career path. And most of the time, when I've seen that as an instructor and a teacher, where I get those people into my classroom, their enthusiasm and passion just comes out, which makes the role of the
Yeah.
faculty member teaching the class so much more enriching. And I think that to me is what kind of connects with what you said with extension. The same thing, that you're dealing with stakeholders that are passionate,
Mm-hmm.
that appreciate the information. And I also get to learn from them because there's new challenges and problems that drive my research or teaching in full circle, which is the cool part about working in this industry and
Yeah.
in a land grant system where you get to do all three.
Yeah, that was one thing that I really appreciated working with the garden clubs, working with the master gardeners. Everybody was like, coming, looking for me with all the answers, but there was hardly ever a meeting or a talk or presentation that I didn't bring something else home because I learned something. Somebody had a comment, we talked about it, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is great. This is going, this is going in the file, and I'm going to use this. So it's yeah, that was a really fun part. Those interactions of the folks that really enjoy the from the homeowner's perspective, the home garden perspective. I mean that was really fun.
Very cool. Very well said. Excellent answer. A plus. Question three. What do you consider to be the most rewarding part of your career in horticulture?
Well, I think we were just talking about that, Brian. I mean,
Mhm.
it was just the opportunity to interact with, if I'm just going to say interact with the folks. People from an extension point of view that really had questions. They really want to be successful. And I think I'm gonna hit on a point that I was going to make later on. But one of the most fun things I did as an extension horticulturist was working with new homeowners. As as our society is becoming more and more urban, yeah, there's a lot of folks that don't have that experience that it's generational that they've never grown anything. And this really came to light during COVID when so many folks were working from home, and all of a sudden the garden became that shiny thing. And all of a sudden it's like, ooh, what's going on out there? I can take 10 minutes. Nobody will miss me at my, at the screen for 10 minutes. And we saw that the increase in sales at garden center. We were fortunate in Mississippi that our garden centers could stay open because they sold food products. They sold transplants and they sold seeds, so they weren't really governed by any of the lockdowns. And we saw, across the country, the run on gardening supplies in 2000, and continued in 2021 and 2022. The increased sales. And so yeah, that was the fun part. and then dealing with, that new homeowner and they want to do a garden. And it's like, well, how big a garden do you want to do? Well, I don't know, like the back 40. And I say, well, why don't you get one tomato plant and put it out on the back porch in a pot and be successful? And then if you're successful, you'll grow three the next year. And I termed that growing that single tomato plant the gateway drug to gardening. Because if you can hook them with that one tomato plant, you got them. And I always tell groups that I was talking to, I was the guy in the corner. Psst, psst, hey, I got something for you, guy. Come over here. Let me hook you up. But that kind of thing. That's really what I got a big charge out of was helping people be successful.
That's fantastic. And yeah, I would agree. That's one of the silver linings that came out of COVID was having so many people and even career changes. I saw
Yep.
of folks coming back to school because they had that exact experience you just described, going
Hmm.
out, literally smelling the flowers at times
Yep.
and realizing there's a whole world out there that they had been missing, and it moved them well enough that we saw people coming back mid-career wanting to pursue degrees in horticulture
Sure.
to have more
Sure.
of it. So that was a boon. I'll take that as well. Question four. How long have you been a member of ASHS, and how has the society influenced your career?
Wow. Um, if we look at ASHS proper, 1990. Southern Region ASHS was 1989 was the first meeting I went to. And I remember the 1990 meeting out in Tucson. And I was an undergraduate. Well, I was an old undergraduate because I went back to school. But I was amazed at. I mean, I had a good relationship with the faculty at Clemson. I was older. I had a different relationship with the faculty than the younger kids did. But I was amazed at that meeting where meeting faculty from all over the country, it was the same vibe. Everybody was like, man, it's great to see you, and nobody, you know, didn't want to talk to me because I was an under, or even the young kids. I say the young kids, it's all relative, right? But everybody was welcome at the meetings and just had great interactions with faculty from all over the country. And one of the really the highlights of ASHS are the annual meetings, or were the annual meetings for me, where you know I'll be truthful. I really didn't go to a lot of talks. I liked going to the posters myself, and I liked having the conversations in the hallways because that's where you really make connections with your colleagues, people that you might not necessarily you know work, collegially with on projects and things during the year, but you're always looking forward to seeing those people at the meetings, to catch up what's going on, pick each other's brains with projects, or if you got problems going on. And that was one of the highlights I think of ASHS. I think there's leadership opportunities that the society provides. um, I I really like the way that the society treats their students. Offering travel grants, to help students get to these meetings. Because look, I always look at it, they're our future colleagues. Yeah, and so we want to be able to identify, the future superstars. And I was always amazed at the meetings, going to I can't tell you how many graduate student competition, sessions I sat in and thinking, man, these guys are so much smarter than me. I mean, every time I did that, I was like, I just blown away by techniques and analysis and just how they carried themselves. That was always a highlight too.
Well,
Um,
that's a perfect segue into my next question. What advice can you offer to students or young professionals in horticulture?
yeah, this is good, Brian. way back when a faculty member who just retired. It's funny. I think it's funny that I retired before he did, but that's he in a class he had the analogy of kind of the width and breadth of horticulture, of opportunities. And he used the analogy of horticulture is kind of like this big house with lots of rooms in it. And if you go in the front door of that house and you walk straight through and go out the back door and say, I really didn't see anything that I liked in horticulture. Well, you really didn't try. And he always encouraged, and a lot of the faculty mentors that I had encourage try stuff out. You go to a room, open that room up, see what's going on in there. If you don't like it, you come out and you close the door. But if there was some interest there, you come out and you leave that door open. And you work your way all the way through the horticulture house, if you want to call it that way. And you can kind of see that, opportunities, if you want to be a landscape designer, fantastic. If you want to be an installer, fantastic. But if you want to be high tech, you can do that too in horticulture. Greenhouse growers, pest control, disease control. There's so much that you can do if you want to teach. Let's not leave teaching out of there, because that's important too, because we're training the next generation to come up. We're training our future colleagues. And that's kind of something that I've done in my career since I graduated. I went to Tennessee Tech. I saw opportunities at Illinois State University, and I saw opportunities at Mississippi State University. So I went from a research to a teaching to an extension. So that looking at places where I could be successful, I could be satisfied, I could be happy with what I do, and not come home every day grumbling. It's like, I gotta go. Well, I'd always get up and I tell my wife, oh, I gotta go to school today, but yeah, that's what I would do. It's keep your eyes open. It's funny. I went back and I talked at my college prep school that I graduated from. I don't know, 2004, I think, and it had gone co-ed. And so there were guys and girls there, which was really kind of strange because it was all guys when I was there, so it was a different vibe. But I'm the only horticulture graduate that has come out from that high school in 114 years. And so I was like this novelty, you know. There's a graduate, God, he graduated, 30 years ago, and he's not a lawyer, he's not a doctor, he's not a business. What, he digs holes in the ground? I had one of my old classmates called me Dr. Dirt, and but they talking to these kids, I was telling them about, you don't have to dig holes. And we went down all the biotech and all the gene work that you could be doing. And I was really thinking they were looking at me, and the theme to Green Acres was playing through their heads while I was talking. I think that's kind of the vibe I was getting. So, but yeah, I think it's, don't limit yourself. If you know what you want to do, fine for a student. But if you're not quite sure, but you think horticulture is kind of cool, well, there's some cool stuff to do if you open your eyes and you try stuff out.
I love the analogy of the house. I'm going to have to borrow that because I think
Oh
that is
yeah.
absolutely true of the society and one of the hallmarks of ASHS, which is sort of a rarity amongst other professional associations that I can think of or members of, is just how diverse it is.
Hmm.
And how you can have breeders talking to educators, extension folks, turfgrass people, floriculture people. It's everywhere in between. And yeah, I like that. That's a great answer, Gary. Thank you for
And,
sharing that.
and I'll tell you one more thing on that. Since I've retired, um, I grow, well, I have grown a big home, small scale garden. That was part of my extension research. We were farmers market growers for 5 years, 52 weeks out of the year out of my backyard. And looking at opportunities. And I grow my own, I grow specialty peppers and tomatoes, odd, odd odd varieties, old genetics, trying to keep these old varieties. I get peppers from, the American Southwest and Mexico, and peppers from Eastern Europe, from all places, tomatoes from Eastern Europe. And it's just fun to do that. I don't compete with burpees because I'm not interested in that. I'm just interested, when my wife says, why don't you go get out of the house, because you're bugging me now. It's like, so I can go out and I can play with, producing my seeds. And so it's,
Win-win. We're getting
yeah,
both horticultural
sure.
advice and marriage advice, and
Right. Yeah. Hey,
sometimes
like
it
I
is nice
said,
to be out in the yard.
yeah, I told you before we started, we just celebrated our 50th year. So we must be doing something right, It's,
I love it. You're doing it very well. Congratulations on that 50th. The garden's a good place every now and then.
Absolutely.
I too have been there.
Ah,
Maybe there again sometime soon if I keep running my mouth some days. Last question.
yeah.
Uh, what excites you most about the future of the horticultural industry and the profession?
Touched on that a little bit about, the increased interest in from the end user point of view. And that's kind of where, I was at for the last 15 years, with extension of looking at what do our end users want, and relaying that back to the producers, so they can work on 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 producing product that, the home, and I dealt primarily with the home gardener, but what the home gardener wants, what those needs are. It's funny. For the last 13 years of my career, I was the host of Southern Gardening, and I did all, ornamental plant production. I did all the media work, the TV work, the newspaper, and we did 650 TV shows, weekly, newspaper for 13 years. But the research was producing vegetables. And that's what people wanted. People really didn't care about, producing azaleas and stuff. You know, we showed them the pretty stuff. Here's, if you plant this azalea, this is what you're going to get. But people were really more interested in starting off with the vegetable garden. And probably 90% of my talks were home vegetable gardening, which was amazing. And probably 75% of what I would present at ASHS was home vegetable gardening. Which was, hey, but I was addressing a need that I was trying to address the need that I saw that people wanted. They like seeing the pretty pictures and everything, but they really wanted to grow a tomato. Really.
Well,
So
fantastic.
yeah.
Gary, thank you so much for
Okay.
spending some time sharing with us your experiences here today, allowing us to capture it as a Hort legend as you are,
I appreciate
providing
that.
some insight, some guidance, some wisdom, and just sharing your passion overall and
Yeah.
with us. So thank you,
Hey,
Dr. Bachman.
hey, you're very welcome. It's my pleasure. Great society, and I'll continue to be an emeritus member for a while here still. So
We're
we're
lucky, Gary.
okay. I hope.
Thank you.
Okay.